All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to tackle a really fundamental piece of Arabic grammar, the prepositional phrase. You might know it as Murakkab-e-Jari or Jar Majroor. And trust me, by the end of this, spotting them is going to be second nature.
So think about it. How do we say where something is, or where it's going? In any language, right? We use these little connector words in the box, on the table, from the store. English calls them prepositions. Well, Arabic has them too. And they've got this one simple, almost magical rule that once you get it, makes them super easy to find.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll define what this phrase actually is. Then, we'll look at its two essential components. After that, we'll load up your toolbox with the most common prepositions. We'll even see how they hook up with pronouns, and then put it all to the test with some real examples. Sound good? Let's dive in.
Okay, first things first. What in the world is a Murakkab-e-Jari? You know, the name itself kind of gives you a hint. It's a phrase that does something very specific to the grammar of a sentence.
It's actually a really simple two-part combo. You've got your preposition, that's called a harf-jar, and right after it, you've got a noun. Now here's where the magic happens. When that harf-jar shows up, it has this power over the noun that follows it. It forces that noun into a special grammatical state called the genitive case, or what we call the jar case.
So let's really zoom in on those two parts, because if you get this, you've pretty much mastered the whole concept. And yeah, this is where we get to that one unbreakable rule I was talking about. First up, you've got the harf-jar. Harf can mean word or letter, and jar is basically the job it does. These are the little workhorse words. You know, you're in, on, from, to. There's a specific group of them, and once you start recognizing them, you'll see them everywhere. And the second part of our duo is the majroor. This is simply the noun that's sitting right after the harf-jar. The name is perfect, really. Majroor literally means the one that got put into jar. It's the one that gets affected by the preposition. Okay, now this is where it all clicks. Look at this table. Before the preposition, the house is al-baytu. See that oo sound at the end? Now let's add the preposition fi, meaning in. Bam! It becomes fi al-bayti. The oo sound flips to an e sound. Same thing with a mosque, masjidin, becomes ila masjidin. The pen al-kalamu becomes bi al-kalami. Do you see that pattern? That change in the ending? That's the jar effect. And here's the kicker. It happens every single time.
All right, now that you get the concept, let's start building up our vocabulary. We're going to fill up our grammar toolbox with some of the most common prepositions, the huruf-jar, that you're going to see all the time.
Let's start with a really common one, fi. This basically means in. And check it out in these examples. See how the word after fi gets that I sound at the end? Baitin, al-bastani, kulubihim. It's like clockwork. That's the rule in action.
All right, next up we have ala. This means on or upon.
And you guessed it, the rule works perfectly here too. Jabalin al-arshi kalbika. They're all in that genitive case because Allah is sitting right in front of them. Seriously, once you spot this pattern, it's impossible to miss it.
So here are some other heavy hitters for your toolkit. We've got min for from, ila for to, li for, and bi for with. Think of these as giant flashing signs. Whenever you see one, you know for a fact that the word right after it is a noun in the jar case.
Okay, we've got nouns down, but what happens if the preposition is followed by a pronoun? You know, like him, or us, or them. Well, this is where it gets a little more advanced, but it's really cool.
See, in Arabic, you don't have these two separate words, like for he. They actually fuse together. So you take the preposition li, which means for, and the pronoun huwa, which means he, and they squish together to become one word, lahu. That means for him. The pronoun basically becomes a little tag at the end of the preposition.
This chart lays it all out pretty clearly. Now, notice something interesting. The preposition li actually changes its vowel sound to la for most of these pronouns. So you get lahu, lahum, laka, lana. But there's always one that breaks the pattern, right? For the I pronoun, it stays li. So for me is li. It's a small detail, but a really important one to lock in.
Okay, we've learned the rules of the game. Now it's time to put on our detective hats. We're going to take what we've learned and use it to break down some more complicated phrases to see how this whole jar majroor thing works in the real world. And we're going to start with probably the most famous phrase in the entire Arabic language, a phrase recited by millions every single day, and guess what? It kicks off with a jar majroor phrase.
Let's pull this apart. Step 1. We spot the bis at the very beginning. That's our harf jar, meaning in or with. Step 2, we know it has to affect the next word, which is ismu, or name. It forces it from ismu into ismi. So right there, bismi is our jar majroor phrase. But here's the really cool part. Ismu is also playing double duty. It's the beginning of a whole other phrase, a possessive phrase, the name of Allah. This is a perfect example of how these grammatical pieces are like Legos that stack on top of each other.
Okay, that last example brings up a really good question. What happens when our preposition runs into a phrase that has more than one word? Does it affect the whole phrase in the same way? And the answer is, nope, it depends.
And this is a super important point. If the preposition comes before a possessive phrase, something like your Lord, then only the first word gets the jar effect, so you see min rabbika. But if it's a descriptive phrase, where you have a noun and an adjective, like a straight path, then both words change, ila siratin mustaqimin. Getting this distinction right is a total game changer for reading accurately.
Whew! Okay, we have covered a ton of ground, from the basic building blocks to some pretty complex stuff. But if you only remember one thing from this entire explainer, let it be this next point.
Just one single golden rule that is the foundation for everything we just discussed.
Here it is, the golden rule. A harf jar, one of those prepositions, will always, and I mean always, force the very next noun into the genitive or jar case. No exceptions, no days off. It's a 100% reliable rule. When you see that harf jar, you know exactly what's about to happen grammatically. It's like having a secret decoder for reading Arabic.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. Now that you can spot a jar majroor phrase from a mile away, how does that change how you approach an Arabic sentence? Because now you can instantly find these little grammatical anchors, and from there, you can start to figure out everything else around them. It's a powerful tool to have. Happy reading.